Good morning, Peter. This is your teacher, Timothy Lampley, your father, and this will be the second lecture in our flipped classroom format that we just recently went to, which is section 1.5, division of whole numbers. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Essential Mathematics with Applications, Paraclete Academy. Code for the course is MATH09. So this is just a lecture outline, and I'll do this a few times just so that you're aware and know what to expect when it comes to the outline. So this lecture will first provide a quick review of the last lesson, which was section 1.4, Objective C, to solve application problems. Now this will be a true review. We're just going to do quick bullet points. If you need any additional information or support in regards to that, I would recommend first and foremost that you view the last lecture, which will have all the details of how to work with solving application problems, and then you can bring that information or any questions that you might have past that. You can bring those questions to our class meeting times. Okay. The second part of this lecture will be the new lesson lecture, which will be section 1.5, Objective A, to divide by a single digit with no remainder in the quotient. Once we get to that, you'll understand what those terms mean. In this section, we'll have how-tos, examples, and you try it's. Okay. The third part will be the homework assignment with meeting times, and then of course remember that the homework will be worked on during class time. So we'll go over that. And then of course the approximate time for the lecture will be 30 minutes. Let's go ahead and continue. So let's go ahead and do our quick review, section 1.4, Objective C. And once again, this will be a quick review. If you need further detail or more information, you'll certainly want to go back and view the previous lecture that had all the details within that. So with the last section, we covered how to solve application problems using multiplication as the math operation. So remember that application problems or word problems show us how to take the math we are learning and use it in real-world situations. Word problems, application problems are perfect for that. Okay. Also remember that multiplication clues that let us know there are certain words or phrases that let us know in an application problem that multiplication would be the way to solve that problem. Some of those words or phrases are times, the product of, and multiplied by. Okay. These help us to determine what math operation we need to solve the problem. Very quickly and a little bit revised, so you're going to want to take notes on this, son. Here are the steps and techniques to using application problem strategies. Okay, so this is the strategy, for how you're going to solve application problems. Okay, and it doesn't really matter what mathematical operation you're going to use. If you follow these steps, you'll be okay. All right, so the first thing that you want to do is you want to make a list of what we know from the problem. So whatever information is provided to you in the problem, you're going to want to make a list, an actual list of those things. The second thing is you're going to want to determine the problem to be solved. So you're going to ask yourself, what answer is the problem looking for? And you're going to write that down. The third thing that you would do is you would process and convert that known information that you got from step 1 into the correct math operation that you're going to use to solve the problem. So within that are 3 sub-steps. So 3A, you're going to think it out and you're going to write it out. Okay, B, you're going to convert information into the correct math operation needed to solve the problem. And C, you're going to perform the math operation and solve the problem. Now, one step that we didn't write down, that we talked about, but we didn't write down in the previous lecture, you're going to want to update your notes with this. Step 4, you're going to write the answer in sentence form using part of the question. Okay. You're going to write the answer in sentence form using part of the question. Okay, so that is our brief preview. I told you it was going to be really quick. If you need more details, you're definitely going to want to go back and watch that lecture to get that information, okay? So here's the new lecture, section 1.5, division of whole numbers. So there are 4 objectives within section 1.5. Objective A is to divide by a single digit with no remainder in the quotient. Objective B, C, and D also have different objectives that are your goal to learn, are the learning outcomes. So by the time you do the entire section 1.5, you will A, be able to divide by a single digit with no remainder in the quotient, B, be able to divide by a single digit with a remainder in the quotient, C, be able to divide by larger whole numbers, and D, to solve application problems using the division operation. Okay. However, this lecture is focused and narrowed to just objective A. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with that. So let's define what division is. So first, division is used to separate objects into equal groups. Okay, so we remember with addition, addition is the process by which two or more, you find the total of 2 or more numbers. So division is division is used to separate objects into equal groups, and we've used that example before of a candy bar. If I have a candy bar and you come along and you're saying, hey Dad, I'd like some of that candy bar, that sounds really, really good and smells really, really good, nice and chocolatey, then if I want to separate that candy bar into 2 equal parts, one part that I can enjoy and one part that you can enjoy, I'm going to use division to do that. Division is used to separate objects into equal groups. So for an example, a store manager wants to display 24 new objects equally on 4 shelves. From the diagram, we see that the manager would place 6 objects on each shelf. So let's go ahead and let's look at this using a picture and writing it as a math operation. So let's look at this diagram that we have for this example here. Okay, so looking at that, we see the shelf right here. So we see this big case, and we see that there are 4 separate shelves. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and we see that there are 6 cans on each shelf. So there are a total of 24 cans, but 6 cans are placed on each shelf. So that is to say that the 24 cans have been separated equally into 6 cans on each shelf. So we're using a picture to see this, but the 24 cans have been divided by 4 with 6 cans equally on each shelf. Now, if we come over here toward the left, we see that this is written in the mathematical operation. So this bracket that you see here is a division bracket, and these various numbers represent the parts of a division problem. We'll go over the names for those and the meanings of those here. So here, the manager has the 24 cans, so that is called the dividend, which would be the number of objects or the number that you start out with. Just like with subtraction, you have the minuend, that's the number you start out with. Then you have the subtrahend, which is the number or the amount that you take away from the minuend. And then whatever is left is called the difference, right? So here, the number that you start out with is called the dividend. That's the number of objects that you start out with before you separate anything. This number over here, the number 4, is called the divisor. That's the number of shelves in this picture, and it also happens to be the number or the amount that you are going to separate from this, okay? And then after, this is the number that you start out with, this is the number or the amount that you're going to separate or divide, and when you divide this number equally by this number, you get what's called the quotient. So the quotient is the answer. But getting back to this picture here, we see that 24, that's the number of objects. So there's 24 cans. The manager wants to display on the shelves an equal number of cans. So we take the 24 here, and then there are 4 shelves. So that would be the divisor. That's the number that you're going to divide this 24 into. And when we take the 24 and divide it or separate it by sets of 4, we see that we have 6 cans that go on each shelf. Okay, let's continue. So we talked about earlier, and we'll cover it now, that division parts, just like addition, just like subtraction, just like multiplication, have their own names for the parts of that kind of a problem, or the division problem. So you have here, using the same example that we did with the managers and the cans, we have 24. In this case, 24 is the dividend. The dividend is the number that you start out with before anything has been separated. Okay. Then you have the divisor, which is the 4 right here. So the divisor is the number, that is to say the amount or the number of parts you are dividing the dividend into. So if we were to take 24 and I want to separate this 24 into 4 equal parts, then I'm going to get the quotient, which is the result. So I can take 24 and dividing that into 4 equal parts, I have 6 sets of 4, just like I have here in the cans on the shelves. Okay, I hope that that's clear. If you have any questions about that, we could certainly talk more about that. Okay, so 24 is the number that we start out with. The manager has 24 cans in total. Okay, now what he wants to do is he wants to take this and he wants to divide it equally. And so this shelf here happens to have 4 shelves. So he wants to take the 24 cans and he wants to set them up and separate them equally on each shelf. So he's going to use division to do that. Okay, and when he takes the 24 cans and divides them into 4, it separates them into 4. That means into groups of 4. Each group of 4 is going to have 6 cans in it, just like we see here in this picture. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. Now, one part that's really interesting here is that the quotient, which is the answer, multiplied by the divisor, which is the number or the amount that you're going to separate, equals the dividend. So the quotient multiplied by the divisor equals the dividend. Let's take a look and say an example. So we have that same number here. We have 24 divided by 4 equals 6. And we know that that's true because we can use multiplication to check our division. So here we have the quotient, which is 6, multiplied by 4, which is the divisor, equals 24, which is the dividend. Okay, so 24 divided by 4 equals 6. And we know that that's true because 6 times 4 equals 24. If we come down here, we can see the same thing. So now we have a different set of numbers. 54 divided by 9 equals 6 because 6 times 9 equals 54. And if you look at your multiplication tables, you'll see that that's true. Okay, and the same thing down here. We have 40 divided by 8 equals 5. And we know that this is true because when we take 5, when we take the answer, and we multiply it by the divisor, we get the dividend. 5 times 8 equals 40. So what this means is just like you can take subtraction and use addition to check the answer, like we've been working on and covering, you can actually take, after you do your division, you could actually use multiplication to check your division. Okay, and we'll go into that more. This is an example of how that works on a very simple basis, but it still works. Okay, so let's continue. Now, just like there are properties of addition and properties of multiplication, there are also properties of division, and we're going to cover those right now. So here are some of the important quotients and the properties of zero in division. So there are actually two properties of 1 in division, and there are two properties of 0 in addition. We're going to cover the properties of 1 first. So the first property of 1 in division states that any whole number except 0 divided by itself is 1. So let's just look at the examples here, and that'll make sense. Okay, so if I take 8 and I divide it by 8, the answer will always be 1. So any whole number that's divided by itself, that is to say 8 divided by 8, so any number that's divided by itself or any number that is divided by the same number, 8 divided by 8, will always equal 1. The second example, 14 divided by 14 is 1. 10 divided by 10 is 1. 2,573 divided by itself, 2,573, will always be 1. So just remember with the property of 1 in addition, this property, that any whole number except 0 divided by itself is 1. Okay. The second property of 1 states that any whole number divided by 1 is the whole number. Okay. Any whole number divided by 1 is the whole number. So here, looking at these examples, Peter, we see here that 9 divided by 1 is 9. So any number divided by 1 will always be the number. And it doesn't matter what the number is. We're talking about whole numbers right now. So in that case, it doesn't matter what whole number it is, it'll always be 1. So 27 divided by 1 is 27. And same thing here. 10 divided by 1 is 10. So here, once again, just like with the shortcuts, with the properties of addition, the properties of multiplication, once you understand and memorize and know the properties, you don't even have to calculate. You can just think and remember that. Trust the properties. So the last property of 0, we have right here properties of 0 in division. We have 0 divided by any other whole number is 0. Okay? So when we have 0 and it's divided by any other whole number, it's 0. Okay? So 0 divided by 13 is 0. And 0 divided by 10 is 0. And if it helps you, you could say that nothing divided by 7 is still nothing. So it doesn't matter, right? If you have nothing, it doesn't matter what you divide it by. Nothing is still nothing. So 0 divided by 7 is 0. 0 divided by 13 is 0. And 0 divided by 10 is 0. So there's a last property here of 0. And let's talk about that real quick because it could get kind of confusing. You could confuse the two. Okay. So this first property is 0. 0 divided by any number, any other whole number, is 0. But if we look here, we see that division by 0 is not allowed. Okay. Division, so we have here the dividend, and we have the divisor, and we have the quotient, right? So the easiest way to think about this is you can never have a divisor be 0. You can never, remember, this is the number, the dividend, that's the number you start out with, right? And then this number, the divisor, That's the number or the amount that you're going to separate this number into. You can never have the divisor be 0. You can never divide another number by 0. Okay? Even if you try it on your calculator, it just won't work. Okay? So let's go ahead and continue. So when the dividend is a larger whole number, the digits in the quotient are found in steps. Okay? And we're going to talk about that right now and show that to you. Okay, so let's go ahead and take this first how-to that we have going on here. And let's work with it. Okay, so the first how-to says divide 3,192 by 4 and check your answer. Okay, so let's go ahead and write that down. So we're going to go 3,192 divided by 4. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of look at each one. So I'm just going to do it for you and show how it works. Okay, so 4 will not go into 3 because this number is smaller than this. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to look at 31. And we need to figure out, can I divide 31 into 4? Well, you can. So what you would do is you can come over here and you would need to know your multiplication tables. This is why it's very important that you have those memorized. So 6 times 4 is 24. So here, we'll just do it. So 6 times 6, let's just do it this way. Okay. So we know 1 times 4 is 4. Is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 5 is 20. So we have a 20. We're getting closer, and we don't want to go over, so we want to get as high as we can without going over this number. So 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 8 is 32. So here's a 32, and that's 31, right? So we keep going up the times table until we find the right number. So this is 32, so that's not going to work because that's greater. We've got to go lesser. So the next one that's less than this one is 4 times 7, which is 28. So we're going to go ahead and put a 7 here. So since we're trying to go 31 divided by 4, because doing all of that would be complicated, so we're going to break it into little chunks that we can deal with. 31 divided by 4 is 7. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to multiply that. So 7 times 4 is 28. And we know that because we just wrote that here, or we have it memorized. So now we take the 7 times 4 is 28. We write that right under the 31. And now we're going to subtract. Okay, so now we need to remember everything that we learned with subtraction. So from here, we see that, the minuend here is less than the subtrahend. We know that we can't do that because we'll get a negative number, right? So we're going to have to borrow. So the 3 becomes a 2. And we put the 1 over here so that the 1 becomes an 11. Okay, so we know that 11 minus 8 is 3. And we can check that real quick. 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's the same, so that we know that that's good. So now, and then of course that's a 0, right? So we don't even have to write that because 2 minus 2 is 0. We'll just leave that right here like that. So now we take the next number and we bring it down. So we did the 31, now we have the 9, we bring it down. So now we're going to divide again. So 39 divided by 4. So let's continue. So 4 times 8 is 32. 4 times 9 is 36. Okay. And then we have 4 times 10, which is 40. So see how important it is for you. You'll need your multiplication table until you learn and have them memorized. So 4 times 10 is 40. So that's 39 and 40. So this is too high, right? This is greater than this number. So we have to go down 1, and we have 36. So 36 is less than 39, so we can use this one. So 4 times 9, so we're going to put a 9, right? And then we multiply. So 4 times 9 is 36. So let's go ahead and write that down. And so now we're going to subtract. So 9 minus 6 we know to be 3. And we know that because 6 plus 3 is 9. So we're checking, right, as we go. And we've got that done. So 3 minus 3 is 0. We don't need to write that. And we have one more number over here, right, in the dividend. So now we're going to bring that down. So this is 32 divided by 4. Well, we can look at our times tables here and see, oh, wait a second. 4 times 8 is 32. So 32 divided by 4 is 8. So we can go ahead and put the 8 up here. 8 multiplied by 4 was 32. We got that right here. So 32. So we have 32 minus 32. And we know that 32, take away 32 is 0. So since we have a 0 down here, we see that this number has divided evenly. We don't have a remainder. So we know, and we can just come over here and write that real quick, that 3,192 divided by 4 equals 798. Now, the direction says that we're supposed to check it too, right, Peter? So what we're going to do is we're going to check it. We're going to go 798 multiplied by 4. So now we're going to use this, and we're going to check our division by using multiplication. So 4 times 8 is 32. Oops. Here, let me come over here. Okay. Using pen. So 4 times 8 is 32. 4 times 9 is 36. Plus 3 is 39. 4 times 7 is 28. Plus 3, 29, 30, 31. Okay. So does my product here, because remember the answer of a multiplication problem is a product, does my product equal the dividend? Yes, it does. 3,192, 3,192. That means that this answer is correct. We could circle it. Okay? So feel free to use this video and to look at this video again and again to get this right. Let's review it one more time. Okay, so we were told to divide 3,192 by 4. And we were told to check our answer. Okay, so let's go ahead. Whoops, camera's going crazy. Camera's going crazy. Why is it? What's wrong with my camera? Okay, that's better. All right. Sorry about that. So in the haziness there, I just rewrote the problem so we can redo the problem, okay? So from here, okay, let's rewrite the problem. 3, 1, 92. 3,192 divided by 4. So 4 will not go into, so 3 will not divide by 4 because this is less than this number. So we're going to have to put these two together, okay? Since 31 is greater than 4, we can attempt to divide 31 by 4, okay? So what we would do is we would go through our times tables, okay? And we went all the way and we discovered that 4 times 7 is 28, and that 4 times 8 was 32. Okay, so we can't use the 32 because that's greater than the 31, right? We can't do that, so we're going to have to use the one that's right under, the one that's closest to this number without going over, okay, which is 7. So now, since we're dividing by 31, we're going to write the number here, 7, and then from here, we're going to multiply. And we have the answer right here to help us. So 7 multiplied by 4 is 28. And from here, we're going to subtract. So we can't subtract here without borrowing because your minuend here is less than the subtrahend. You'll end up with a negative number, just like we learned before, right? None of that has changed, and we have to remember all that stuff, right? So we're going to borrow 1 from the 3. So that the 1 here becomes an 11, and this is no longer a 3, that's now a 2. Okay, so 11 minus 8 is 3. 8, 9, 10, 11, just to check it, right? So we've now 2 minus 2 is 0. We don't put the 0 there, we just forget about it, right? We calculate it, it's a 0, but we don't write it ahead. So now we take the next number, and we bring it down. And now we continue. So I need to figure out, we need to determine 39 divided by 4. So, okay, let's continue. So here's 32. We must be close. So 4 multiplied by 9 is 36. 4 multiplied by 10 equals 40. We can't use that because 40 is greater than this number, right? So we have to find the number that's as close to without going over, and that would be this one here. Okay, so 4 multiplied by 9 is 36. Okay, so let's go ahead and write the 9, and then we multiply. 9 multiplied by 4 is 36, and we subtract. Okay, so 9 multiply, getting crazy here. 9 subtracted, or 9 minus 6 equals 3. And I can check that, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I know that that's correct. 3 minus 3 is 0. We don't write the 0 in front. So now we just take the next number and we bring it down. That's a 2. Okay, so 32 divided by 4, well, that divides evenly, because we look here and we say, hey, wait a second, 4 times 8 is 32. So now we take the 8, 8 multiplied by 4 is 32. So here we see that 32 minus 32 is 0. The number has divided evenly, because we know there's no more numbers to bring down. So we're done. And it's a 0. So it's divided evenly. So 3,192 divided by 4 is 798. Okay. And then we need to check, because it says we need to check our problem. So from here, we're going to take 798, and we're going to multiply that by 4. We're going to take the quotient, multiply it by the divisor, and we should end up with the dividend if the answer is correct. 4 multiplied by 8, we can see that up here, is 32. So I got to write the correct digit down and carry the right digit. 4, and we're going to multiply across, just like we learned last week. 4 multiplied by 9 is 36, plus 3 is 39. Carry the 3. Cross this one out so I don't get confused. And then 4 multiplied by 7 is 28. Plus 3, 29, 30, 31 is 31. Is my product equal to my dividend? Yes, it is. 3,192 is equal to 3,192. So my quotient is correct. I just wanted to review that with you again real quick so you can see how that works. Okay? So, you know, we talked about understanding the material. We talked about processing the material. We talked about applying the material and remembering the material, right? So look at everything here that you have to remember. You've got to remember how to multiply. You've got to remember how to subtract as you're learning how to divide. You also have to learn how to check, right? So you've been learning how to check and remembering, right? You got to learn how to multiply. If you don't know how to multiply, you can't divide because you use it, right? If you don't know how to subtract, you can't divide because you use that in the process here, okay? So let's go ahead and let's get back to the lecture. Okay, so we're back from the example division that we did, which was to divide 3,192 into 4 and then check the problem. So we're already at 36 minutes for the lecture, so I'm going to cut it here short pretty quickly. I don't want to go over too much. So, but I want to take time because I want to make sure that you understand how to divide. Okay, and it's better for us to go slower and have you understand it, Peter, than for us to blow through it. You don't get what's going on, and you're just lost. Okay, we don't want you to be lost. We want you to be found and understanding and understand the problem and the processes, and we want you to be able to understand the material, to process the material, to apply the material and get correct answers, and then, of course, to understand and remember the material so we can go to the next lesson. I hope here that in that example with the division problem, you see how important it is for you to remember everything else that you've already learned, all the way from section 1.1, Introduction to Whole Numbers. You have to understand greater than and less than, or else you're not able to divide. Okay? So, which you do understand. I'm very happy about that. But let's just continue real quick. So from here, we still need to work through some examples, so we need to do that. Also, I would encourage you to look at page 35 and try the You Try It problems on page 35 if you wanted to do that in between now and our class meeting. That would be great. If you wanted to go ahead and try the You Try It's, we could do that. I don't have a problem with that at all. Using the template and using the process that we did for the problem that we did here in the example. I'll go over, if you want to just kind of study and wait until course time, we can do that. Remember, during our meeting times, we meet for an hour to give ourselves plenty of time to have you practice the material, to receive help from me if you need it. But the homework, after the examples, after the You Try It's, you're going to have a homework assignment which is due. So the homework assignment is section 1.5 exercises, objective A, exercises 1 through 28, every other odd. Okay. So remember that you need to show your work, so no shortcuts, okay? You need to show your work, and you need to be able to, divide those. I don't think that you're actually required to check the problem, but it may be a good idea for you to practice doing that so that you can make sure that you get the correct answer, okay? So that's it. That's the lecture so far. everything that we've covered. I highly suggest, highly recommend that you go through this lesson as many times as it takes for you to understand it so that you're prepared when we meet. So the meeting time is going to be Wednesday. So that gives you tomorrow to review, to study, to look at the lecture, to take notes on it, to write down any questions that you may have in regards to the lecture, in regards to what we're talking about, and have that available for us to review come our Wednesday class meeting. Okay, we'll go over the examples. We'll go over, we'll review and go over your U-try-its that you've done. If you so choose to do that, I highly recommend that you do. And then remember that your homework is going to be due Friday. Okay. So the class meeting, if we need to do another class meeting in between now and then to kind of help you with that, I don't have a problem at all. But one way or the other, the homework is going to be due Friday. Okay. So I love you, my son. Lord bless you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me either via the Paraclete Academy email. You can shoot me a text. If I'm, you may even be able to just kind of come in if I'm at the desk. You can come in and ask for help. But the class time is really what's that for. So if you can't think of anything at the end of the lectures, but you think of something during, the class time, or if something comes up afterward that you didn't think of before and then you did, don't hesitate to reach out to me via email so that we can get you the help that you need and that you deserve, okay? I love you. Have a good one. Bye.